We have not seen a lot of concern in the markets, Will, about what we're seeing on the tariff front. And so we have not seen gold really catching a bid at all this year, despite some of the geopolitical tension, some of the risks from tariffs. Is gold as a safe haven broken right now?
It's not broken, but it's definitely been muted, as you say, because while you've had a lot of potential news around tariffs and sanctions, which ordinarily you might expect to affect gold positively, that's been muted in a stronger dollar. And that's really been the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, the dollar has just overwhelmed any other factor. Is that going to continue to be the case here, that we're going to see a similar trade where everything kind of trades off the dollar versus these other factors?
I think that the dollar has been strong, and that's been a big negative for gold. But I don't think the dollar has that much more room to grow. And if anything, we're expecting a dollar sort of slide from here on. I think that the dollar only has a certain amount of room to strengthen from here, and it's just very, very tough for the dollar to remain strong in an environment where other major currencies around the world are weak and other countries have much lower interest rates.
So your company has a gold ETF. BAR is the ticker on that, BAR. We've seen outflows from the gold ETFs, not surprising, as you've seen the price fall. Typically, if you see price recovery, how nimble are these gold ETF investors that they're going to get back in if we start to see a recovery?
Well, I think so address that in a couple of ways. That there are a lot of investors who are very reactive and who will look for an opportunity to buy when prices fall. That's less of a gold story. That's more of a pro-cyclical commodity story. So oil and other commodities where prices dipped, you see a lot of investors buying. I think what's happening in gold, though, is investors that are in higher or more expensive gold funds are looking at that opportunity to realize a tax loss harvesting strategy and get into a lower cost ETF at this particular time while prices are low. So taking advantage of the dip in price to reset their exposure into a lower cost fund.
And finally, I have to ask you about something outside of metals, something that some people consider a commodity, I suppose, and that's Bitcoin, because you all were amongst the crop of ETF issuers that had applied for a Bitcoin ETF. The SEC just sort of rejected a handful of them, including yours. What now?
Well, I think it's personally disappointing because myself and everyone in the company's worked very hard to do this. I think the major thing that I would point out is while we're disappointed because we thought we answered the questions, we allayed the concerns that the SEC had, for us, the Bitcoin ETF, and I think it's important to make distinction, we were applying for one using futures, so Bitcoin futures, not the actual physical Bitcoin. And for us, there's a clear delineation between the two. The Bitcoin futures are no different than any other futures-based ETF that either we provide or others in the market provide. It's a regulated futures contract, and therefore, for us, it looks and feels exactly the same. So we're disappointed, obviously, that the application was rejected in its current form, and we'll wait to see what we do from here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been interesting. The SEC definitely has concerns about things like price manipulation, which, to your point, one would think in the future, you don't have hacking, or at least knock on wood, we haven't had hacking in the futures market.
Correct, and I think it's different, and again comes back to the manipulation point.
Right.
Is that that's a disclosable risk in a prospectus, and there are plenty of other ETFs in the market that have that disclosure in the prospectus that say the underlying market could be prone to some form of manipulation. Clearly we have one of the largest markets in the world being oil, being at some level influenced by OPEC cartel.
Yeah, all right.
And these are kind of important factors in the whole discussion.